Here are four things that a lot of us as coaches tend to do wrong or that we could do better. And these are four of, not the main four in my opinion. There's other things on YouTube that I put as far as, sometimes not following a system close enough. And, as a high school coach years ago, I think I said on YouTube that I was a joke because I think I was. Anyway, so here's four other things that I think sometimes we could do a better job of, myself included, and I try to every day. One is we tend to overtrain our athletes. The colleges are getting very smart about not doing this. And I remember one time in college I was walking up the flight of stairs and my legs were so tired. And I remember just like my confidence was gone. I had the number 4 ranked guy in the nation from Penn State, I think. And I was like, how am I supposed to go beat this guy? Because this was in the 90s. It was Tommy Tough Guy practice every day, Army boot camp, breaking the guys down. And they say build you back up. But, not a lot of that always went on. And it kind of went in cycles. I know a couple of coaches, one at two very famous college coaches, and they went on to win the NCAA title after falling short a few years in a row when they were ranked to win it. And I talked with both assistant coaches. One was at one, a few years ago, and then another was a couple years later when that team had won it, and they won it twice in a row, I think. Anyway, and those guys said the number one, because I always like to ask for the number one thing. What's the number one thing you guys are doing differently? And one of the guys said, we're having fun. We don't expect these, Coach so-and-so doesn't expect these guys to have their game face on 18 hours a day. Wrestling is a fun place to be now. We listen to the radio when we live wrestle and warm up. We used to not do that. And sure, practices are hard and intense. they're the national champions, Division I. You don't accomplish that unless your practices are intense. But it's just not, maybe just a burden that you're carrying around. The sport of wrestling shouldn't be a burden. So I think sometimes we overtrain our wrestlers emotionally, but also physically. And I know another great Division I program. One of their coaches had trained with us when he was younger, and he said some of their practices are an hour and 20 minutes long. They've won a trophy a couple of times over the past decade, so they're doing very well. But get in and get out. And I don't think you can do that as a high school, the middle school, or youth coach. Your practices have to be longer, especially the big-time Division I schools. They're recruiting, kids who have medaled or won the state title and ranked to the nation or won it. So they're dealing with different kids. But towards the end of season, the practices should be fast and furious and get out. So I do think overtraining our kids physically is sometimes a big issue, especially at the high school level. All the morning practices, which I totally just think I wouldn't do them. I think they're counterproductive, and I think they hurt. I think there's nothing good comes out of morning practices. Not anything. Never, ever, ever have a morning practice is my opinion. And let the guys sleep, So I think overtraining is a part of it, and I know the colleges used to do that. Oh, the other college where I was going to talk about, I asked them their number one thing, and they said, we just laid off the kids, and I think they used the word, Navy SEAL. We don't have Navy SEAL training camp every day. Practices we'll let the guys rest. And I think also pick the individuals. You're going to have individuals who they need more recovery time. And then there's some who maybe are so anxious that they overtrain themselves. So you as a coach need to pull those kids aside. But as a coach training a group, I think physically overtraining the kids can be a big issue. And I'll throw morning practices in there as leading to that. As well as making the kids make weight. Certified low, go up for the rest of the season, go back down to your certified weight at the last minute. That way they're emotionally excited about the end of season and they don't have that 3 months of weight cutting hanging over their shoulders. That has just sometimes taken their desire to win. They want wrestling to be over. So as far as overtraining, there's a few areas I think that we tend to engage in and make those mistakes. As far as a technique standpoint, sometimes we just try to teach and cover too much. Most of us, your high school kids, they're going to disappear 8 months a year. They're going to do other sports. They're probably not the ones who are really seriously training to be a 2-3 time state champion, and probably not a national champ. They're probably not going to win a wrestle in college. And that's okay. That's what high school athletics are all about. Some of these kids, they're awesome kids, and their main sport is football. Good. You need them on your team. But so since you have them at a limited amount of time, having a 12-page drill plan, I think, is wrong. Just narrow it down so it's systematic, and so you can get a lot of reps. And I think that's the main key. I know on our DVD series, what I recommend is getting our system. Well, I would use ours, but some people have their own, and that's great too. But get it taught quick. You can't say, well, until we master this move, we're not going to do anything else. It might take a gymnast 5 years to master her balance beam routine, or even just the dismount might take 6 months or a year, and it still may not be always perfect. So you can't say it's going to be perfect or we're not going to move on. No, get it all thrown out there. Try to teach we call drill routines. Get your drill routines taught and in place within the first 2 weeks of season. Go some Saturday training camps. Go some long practices. This was all discussed. Those of you who have our DVD series have seen this before. Get it all laid out, and then that way the next 4 months you have a piece of paper and you can get a stopwatch and stand against a wall and call out the drills and drill the guys through it and drill your girls through it, drill the team through it. And you shouldn't say, okay, well, state's in 2 weeks. Now we're going to learn how to get out of stop a power half. It's too late for that. We need 4 months of drill time in there. And you can't do that if you have a 13-page drill plan. So those two go hand in hand. Also, taking too long to teach. We have a philosophy that says put the workers to work. They're the ones that have to be working. So our goal is to you come to our camps, we have the kids' feet moving within 30 minutes. We don't run. We don't take 20-minute warm-ups. We get them, everything is wrestling related. And I think that if you learn to teach fast, get the kids working, you shouldn't take 20 minutes to show a knee slide stand up. You demo it twice, boom, get them working. And I think that's something that sometimes we do. And I even have had guest clinicians and stuff coming into our academy, and then they're great guys, but they find the need to justify what they're showing. And then they say, back in 1988 the Olympics, so and so did this move and this is why it worked. And you don't need to tell a story about it. No one cares. If it didn't work, I wouldn't show you, and if I didn't know what I was doing, you wouldn't have hired me. So let's just get these kids working. They need to get better. So teach a system, get the drillers drilling, and you teach fast and furious, and don't take 4 months to get through your drill plan. Get it done in 2 weeks, and then spend 4 months drilling the plan so they can work the wrinkles of it out. Here's my little buddy. Another thing is sometimes you make wrestling a big deal. I had an athletic director at Oklahoma State. He was a cool guy, Dave, and he would come down talking about, hey, you guys, he was NCAA champion at Iowa State, Dan Gable's roommate. He was cool. And he would say, no, Chris and Kendall, you guys have been to the top of the mountain. I've been to the top of the mountain. No one, you other guys haven't been to the top of the mountain yet. He was just joking. He was cool though, but I think sometimes we teach the kids how difficult it is, and the mountain is so steep and treacherous, and not everybody's going to make it, and you got to embrace the grind, and this and that. And all that stuff is true, but let's try not to make it a great big ordeal. Let's be honest, we've all had kids who could have won a state title, probably a couple of times, maybe that didn't. And I think sometimes we overhype the event, and then we make it into like a dramatization. And, they know it's difficult. I like to say, and instead of saying, hey, you can do it, because there's kind of a question mark of doubt behind that statement. So I don't go to a kid before a big match if I know that, that there's a good chance they can win this match, but it's going to be difficult. I'll say, hey, this is a tough match. Score first, get this match won. You need to be in the finals. Boom. And you talk to them like that, not like, I think you can do this if you do it right. And, so you don't over dramatize, but you also don't ever show any doubt. It's just kind of a simplistic thinking and task-minded. That's how you speak to your wrestlers. So I think that's very important too, that we don't make it a big deal and make it sound so treacherous and difficult to win a state medal or a state title, or the team maybe is in a position to win the title. We don't want to make that such a big, don't make it an event. And that's something, if you look at the sports psychology guys online that email and follow on Twitter, they'll say that don't make this into a big event. You know, and the famous Division I coaches, they'll say things like, hey, this is an exclamation point type of an event. It's the NCAA tournament. But, you know, to us, we trained for everything like this. We try not to make this a big deal. Obviously, this carries a little bit more weight. But to us, every tournament is important. And they do a good job of that, not making it a big deal. And I think we can do that as a coach too. So there's a few words of wisdom that maybe can resonate with some of us, especially you younger coaches who could maybe use some advice. But we appreciate you listening, and share this if it's on Facebook. Hit the subscribe button if it's on YouTube, and come check us out, purlerwrestling.com. Come train with us.